y'all! I'm coming to you from my living room because the lighting in my bedroom is really not working. Thanks, Canada. So today I am going to be making my TBR for the O.W.L.s portion of the Magical Readathon this year. I have two lists, kind of ish. I have the list of books I want to read for my career, and then I have a list of every book for each of the prompts, just in case I manage to make it past my career books, which honestly does not seem that possible. So we're going to hope for the best and see how this goes. So essentially, for the Magical Readathon, we have a prompt for every single one of the O.W.L.s we can take, and then for which career you want to do, they have the O.W.L.s that you're required to take. So I've chosen to do the Wandmaker career this year. The first prompt is Ancient Runes, and that is to read a retelling. And for that one, I'm going to be reading Stars Above. I just finished all of the main books in the Lunar Chronicles in March, so I thought I'd continue on with the series. The second prompt is Arithmancy, and that is to read a book by more than one author, and for that one I'm going to be reading Autoboyography, which I've heard a lot about. I'm pretty excited to get into it. The third prompt is Care of Magical Creatures, and the prompt for this one is to read a book with a land animal on the cover, which was harder to think of than I thought. And the book I'm going to try to read for this one is Watership Down. I am struggling to get a hold of a copy of this book, so we'll see if this happens. But that is what I'm going to attempt to read. It's not available at my library physically or on ebook until like another 8 weeks, so we'll see if this happens. I might just have to choose another book for it, or find some sketchy version of it online, if that's possible. The fourth prompt is Charms, and it is age line, read an adult work, and for that one I'm going to be rereading The Seven Husbands of Evelyn and Hugo, which I do own now. It was, the Kindle version was on sale for like $3 last month, and I bought it, so I do own it. I'm really excited to reread it. And the fifth book is a chunky motherfucker, and I don't know why I did this, but the prompt is Herbology, and it is to read a book with a plant on the cover, and I will say I put this book on hold a month ago, and I thought it was never going to be available, and then it told me it was available right before this started, so I guess I have to read it now, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is huge. I don't know how I'm going to get through this book. I'm going to try my darndest, but Jesus Christ. Granted, it looks a lot thicker than it is. It's 800 pages, which Winter is 800 pages, and I read that in a day. Granted, it is very different because this is apparently like pretty heavy to get into. It's high fantasy, so we'll see how well I manage to get into that. But this is huge. And my plant on the cover is that thing right there, those leaves. That is what I'm counting as a plant on the cover. Those are the books I want to read for my career of Wandmaker. However, I do have a list of all the books I want to read for each of the prompts and see what I can manage to finish off. And there is a bit of a change. So Stars Above for my career was for Ancient Runes, the retelling. However, for all of the prompts, it is actually going to be for Astronomy, which is a book with star in the cover. For Ancient Runes, I'm going to be trying to read Geekerella, which a book I've heard a lot about, again, on BookTube, so I'm very excited to read it. All the other books I have for the prompts of my career TBR are the same, so I'm not going to go through them again, but starting with the next one, Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is Reducto, read a book with the title that starts with R. For this one, I'm going to be reading Radio Silence. So I read Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds on the recommendation, words are hard, on the recommendation of Kat from Paperback Dreams, and I absolutely loved it, and she adores Radio Silence, and so I'm very excited to get into this. Kat, I trust your opinion a lot. I'm really excited for Radio Silence. For Divination, which by the way, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing any of these class names correctly, the prompt is to read a book set in the future, and for that one I'm going to be reading Fahrenheit 451. I haven't read many of the classic novels that people have read for school and stuff. I was never required to read mostly anything, so I'm really excited to dig my teeth into this book. For History of Magic, this is to read a book that was published at least 10 years ago, and for this one I'm going to reread The Count of Monte Cristo. This month I just read Pride and Prejudice again, which I'd only previously read when I was 10, and that's the same case for The Count of Monte Cristo. And The Count of Monte Cristo is what got me into reading. It's a book I love and adore, and was my all-time favorite book until Evelyn and Hugo, and I had an identity crisis over enjoying Evelyn and Hugo more than The Count of Monte Cristo, so I really do want to reread it and maybe re-cement it as my all-time favorite book. For Muggle Studies, the challenge is to read a contemporary novel, and for this one I'm going to be reading Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I I said at the beginning of the year that I wanted to read some Rainbow Rowell books, and I started with Eleanor and Park. And I had not read the comments on that video, which had said, hey, Eleanor and Park is not that great, and I read it, and I was not a fan. So I'm going to hope that Fangirl is better. I've heard a lot of great things about it, and people did warn me about Eleanor and Park, so probably should have heeded that warning and just gone with Fangirl instead. But I will be trying to read it this month. For potions, the prompt is next ingredient, read a sequel, and for this I'm going to be reading The Language of Thorns, which I said months ago I was going to read to finish off the Grecian verse. Still haven't. If you follow me or are friends with me on Goodreads, you know this has been there for like 2 months that I've been reading it, and I have not gotten far at all. So I'm going to try to finish the series. And lastly, for Transfiguration, this is to read a book with sprayed edges or a red cover, and for this one is another book I said I was going to read this year and I still haven't, and it is Gone with the Wind. Again, a chonky motherfucker. We're going to see if I get through this. Granted, it is, like, the pages are small, but this is so long, and I've heard it's not very easy to get into, so I'm going to try to knock this out. I do want to finish this before I leave for leave university to go home, so I don't have to pack it in my suitcase. I hope you enjoyed this TBR for the O.W.L.s portion of the Magical Readathon. This readathon is hosted by Books Roast, I think, and I will leave everything she's done down below. Girl is crazy. She made like a full-on careers pamphlet, and it's beautiful. I will link everything down below, and we're never going to get through these books, but I'm going to try. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you sometime. Goodbye.